Hello and welcome to my video. Now this one is a very big painting. I'm going to give you the measurements as soon as I can find this. Right, I've got it. My measuring tape. It's quite wide. It's 116 centimeters wide by 89 centimeters deep, and as usual I'll put the measurements on the screen in inches. This is something I did a few years ago, and it's on canvas, by the way, and it's okay. I quite like it, but I just want a little bit more mystery. I think I've got a bit of drama, but I want some more mystery. How do you add mystery? Well, I don't know. It's one of these things that will just happen, I think. It's having an eye for drama. I guess that helps. So what I've done, I've started already over on the right hand side there, just by adding some blue. Blue Payne's grey with a bit of Japanese red, which gives me this colour. And I've just been applying it over there loosely with a brush, and also using paper towel. So I'm going to zoom in on that bit so you can see how I actually do this. So as you can see, it's pretty rough looking at the moment, but that's okay. It's what I want. And up here is sort of full strength of what I'm doing. Down here I've already started wiping, and in fact I'll just show you. Because it's canvas though, by the way, not wood, I have to wipe a little harder because the paint is sitting in the grain of the canvas. But because everything underneath is completely dry, I can be quite rough with this. So I can add a little bit more light, for instance, through there between the trees, and a little bit this side here. It would be silly to just do this bit and not that bit, because it would be very unlikely that the sky would change in tone directly behind that tree. So if you have a light area here, you really need it on the opposite side as well to get the effect. So, and it's as simple as that. This is glazing. I could leave the blue on the tree, but I might just show you what the tree will look like if I just take away some of the glazing. It's going to be subtle. You'll only see it very, very slightly actually down through the tree there. It just brings out a little bit more of the detail. So I'm going to carry on with this and see how it goes. A little bit more light along the horizon there. It's very wobbly, this, but it is an extremely big canvas, and I'm going to add a little bit more light up the top here and expose a little bit of the tree as I do it, just to sort of try and find that elusive, mysterious look. The actual tree itself is quite a dark, sort of flat looking tree. I could go towards that a little bit more, or I can just bring back some of the light areas within the tree. There weren't many, but you know, what was there will come through. So I'm just going to continue, and I think a little bit more there too. Okay, when I've finished with my tones on here, which leave very rough wipe marks, I'll be doing my usual trick of going over it with a very big brush just to smooth it out. I'm going to do a little bit of work now on this side of the tree here, and across the sky. I'll keep it light down the bottom, I think, but dark on the top. And there are some clouds underneath all this up here, so I'll probably expose some of them a little bit as well. So back to the grey bluey colour with a hint of red. Hardly any, it just gives it a slightly more interesting look. So I'm going to continue along here. And keep in mind that what I'm doing here is not final. This is just applying the tone that I want so that I can play with it a little later. And in fact, I think we'll pull a little bit across there. Going back over that side in a minute, and I'll extend the dark up to the top. So that even though I'm going to make this light again, it may not be as intense a light that you see here, but in the overall key of the thing, you'll understand. It's just to, as I said, well, in fact, no, I didn't say. It's it's a little bit of a mystery tour for me as well, because you never quite know what's going to happen. What I actually like about painting, just it gets more interesting the more you get into it. So I'm going to be a little bit bold down there now. I can be quite bold sometimes. I'm going to, I've got a brush that's already got some pale blue on it, quite a lot of pale blue in fact. I'm going to just add quite a lot of red to that and give the sky a little bit of warmth. It's already got a bit of warmth down the bottom, but I'm going to heat it up a bit. So let's just chuck in this quite interesting colour. Let's just have a little something there, I think, and a little bit there. I'm going to give the brush a bit of a wipe because I want the red to be slightly more intense. If I put more red on this brush, it'll just end up the same. So I just take some of the loose paint away, and it's just a good hard wipe with a paper towel, just enough to give the red a chance to work. And this is going to be straight, literally no oil, just using the red here, just on one corner of the brush. I might continue a little bit along there in a minute. We'll see. Touch more there. In fact, I'm going to add a bit of white to the red just to make it slightly more pink. Japanese red is quite an orangey, bright sort of red. Adding a little bit of white to it gives it another little bit more depth. So straight through these trees. This is one of those exercises that you have to be quite brave. It looks as though it's completely ruining the painting, but it isn't. Well, I hope it isn't. You might think it is, but you just have to trust your instincts. I think I'll shove a little bit of red over that side. So, as I have this red here, it needs it down there as well. Absolute mess. I do like undoing messes. Well, certain types of messes. Okay, so that's enough of that detail. Paper. So all I do now is just bring the tree back that was there. Bring the bottom of this tree, well, in fact, all the way up through the centre of that tree, I think, all the way down to the ground, so that the tree is in front of the sky. Slightly more mysterious. And here, I know that there's some tree underneath the red. In fact, I know there's a lot of tree under the red here, so let's just bring that back. And there's a couple of trees hiding in this bit. So we have a bit of tree there, and then I'll lighten the sky, because the white that was in the sky already just needs to be revealed. So let's have a nice, good, solid white through there. So you see it starts to get a little bit of interest in there. So the trees that were here, they're still here. You see, all I have to do is bring them back. This is one of the joys of glazing. You can get these effects without having to carefully paint between the trees. You paint over everything and then wipe it off to reveal what was underneath. And the same here. Bring that back. That one. This one. So now the stuff that I put on for the sky has gone back to being in the sky rather than over the trees. And then it's just a question of a little bit of tidying up. No real precision needed, because this is a toneless picture. The thing about tonalism is that you have a lot of soft edges and impressions. It's not really impressionism per se. I am giving an impression of a landscape, but this is not quite the same as standard impressionism as done by people like Van Gogh, Monet, all that lot. Tonalism is quite different, actually. You can look up, if you look up tonalism on Google, you'll get lots of information. And if you go on YouTube, in fact, you'll see, you could, for instance, if you look up one of my heroes, George Innes, there's a video which is basically a slideshow of all of his paintings, pretty well all of them anyway, I think. So, I don't know, several hundred paintings. Well worth looking at. And quite inspiring. Okay, so I'm going to just smear some of this blue now, and I will be putting a bit of white over the top, because I think if I really wipe the whites to bring them back up here, they're never going to be as strong as they were in the beginning, because the blue, as I said earlier, gets into the, well, any colour gets into the tooth of the canvas, and it does cause a few problems in getting it out again. So unless you use a thinner, which I won't, I mean, I could use oil, I could just add a bit of oil to this. I'll see if I can do that now and show you what I'm talking about. yeah, if I just dab this in some oil. This is clarified linseed oil stuff in a bottle. Oops, is it that one? Wait a minute. Yes, it is. Yes, I've got several bottles on the go. Oops, and I've just made the floor slightly oily. I have to watch where I walk now. So here I have a little bit of oil on there. So if I bring that to the painting and wipe, as you can see, it actually takes off quite a lot of the paint. So you could do that, I suppose. And in a moment I'm going to extend this dark blue. Shall I go right to the top of the painting? This is a rhetorical question, of course. I think I might try and fade it out and then bring it back in again with some sharper clouds. I've got a few streaks coming across here on this tree, which I want to lose, so I'm going to just take it off. And all the time I'm doing this wiping, I'm looking for the edge. I don't want to wipe here too far into this sky colour, because it'll put a light ring around the tree, and I don't want that. I want, well, actually no, I've just contradicted myself again here. I could actually, just there, I could push some paint away just to get a light area coming across there, which I think is actually not bad. I'll be working on the tree later in the video. I'm not happy with that tree yet. Not absolutely sure what I'll do to it, but I will definitely do something to it. Now I did that because there was a bit of a line, a bit of a down-turning line there, which I don't want. Extend that across there a little bit. Okay, let's just take a quick look in that camera. It's coming along. Looks a bit misty through there, but does that matter? I mean, do I actually like the mist? Do you like the mist? I've decided I do like the mist, except for one little bit of it, and that's just there. That's better. It was how can I put it? Too misty. So touch more light there. And it's one of those situations where I can't really explain why I did that. It's just that I did it because it just felt right. Or as I usually say, I did it because I can, which is a good enough reason really, because when you think about it, this place doesn't exist. It's all in my head somewhere. But think of a painting as creating your own little world. So whatever you do to it is okay because it's yours. You don't have to comply. Let's put it that way. So I'm making my own little place here, which is somewhere in my head. Okay, so I think I'll move the camera in a second so that you can see what's going to happen with the sky. So, the sky. What shall we do with the sky? I think before I do anything, I'm going to go over that dark area over there with a big brush, just to get rid of some of the brush marks. This is one I used the other day, big brush. So it's got a little bit of paint on it, and I'm going to just give it a wipe just to get some of that off. So just as a reminder, this blue, did I tell you in the beginning? Maybe I didn't. The blue is some Pthalo blue, Payne's grey, It's got a little bit of royal blue in it and a little bit of Japanese red. So I'm going to attempt to do this without getting in your way. So let me think what's the best way. I think I'll just concentrate on not getting in the way. That might do it. That's my excuse. Okay, so big brush, keeping out the way. Very, very light touch. Just enough to take away the wipe marks and the wipes and the swipes. So I'm just taking away anything that doesn't look slightly real. A little bit perturbed by that. I might have to do something there. In fact, there's no might about it. I will have to do something. And I think the best thing is to extend the light up into there. Make it look a bit more natural. It's not quite there yet, but it will. Checking my positioning here. Okay. And now back with the big brush, we'll start to soften what I just did there, just to clean it up. And it is literally just a touch. It shows up more. I mean, you're getting a lot of movement on the canvas here because it's canvas. If it was wood, you wouldn't notice it. So I think that might do there. Come back to the big brush in a moment. The next thing I'm going to do is start to construct the clouds at the top there. So I'm going to use a palette knife and start with it clean. Paint all over my hands. Interesting this. I've been painting since I was 14. I'm 69 now, so it's been a while. And I used to always be able to paint and draw and keep my hands completely clean, but as I get older, I don't know whether maybe it's because I don't care so much. Maybe I'm too relaxed. Maybe I need to well, I was going to say, shame on me, I was going to say maybe I shouldn't relax so much, but actually that's totally wrong. You should always relax. Keep it nice. And it's supposed to be a pleasant experience, painting. If it becomes hard work, you need to assess what it is you're doing that makes it hard work. This beware, by the way, if you decide to paint clouds and just use one of these and not a brush, beware of jagged edges. There's a couple there, like a right angle in there. If you get those, try and knock them out, because, as you know, clouds tend not to do that. They might do it occasionally in nature, but it doesn't mean to say it will necessarily work well in a painting. So these, what I'm putting on here at the moment, these are temporary until I go over it with a large brush. So this is just literally just putting the paint on the board. So I've got this sort of hump here, which is sort of interesting, I suppose, but I don't think I really want it to be quite so humpy. So I'm going to just pull that there, and I'll be working on that. It looks a bit like a mountain at the moment. I could actually, funny enough, I could turn it into a big mountain behind there, but I'm not going to on this one. But you can see from this how I would probably start to go about that. It's just a question of getting the blue down for the shadows in the mountain, and then just putting white on it to bring out the light areas. But for this painting, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in painting just a sky. I have painted some mountains recently. In fact, I'll put one on the screen about now, and so you can get an idea of what they look like. Okay, so there's a streak. Bit of technical jargon there. We call that in the painting world a streak. streaker cloud. Now, the question is, can you see right? Yes, you can. I'm going to put a few bright bits in the sky over here. A few, in fact, maybe they'll come down that way a little. Yeah, I think they will. For those of you who have never seen one of my videos, what I do for my commentary is just ramble on about what's going through my head and what I'm trying to achieve and how to achieve it. Okay, so what I've got here, I've got this line. Now this is still making it look like a big mountain range, and I really don't want that. So I'm going to put a little bit of cloud here, and I'm going to bring it right up to the tree so that it disappears behind it there. And I'll work on that area there in a minute. So here, just applying white, ready for the big brush effect. I want to avoid repetitive lines. It's something you don't really want in a sky because, again, unless they're contrails, you tend not to get it. Or well, some clouds you do get sort of lines that look as though they might repeat, but it's not that common. And even though you might get it in nature, in a painting it may look a bit naff, basically. So I've got a bit of light here. I think I'm going to have a little tiny bit more there. So I'm just going to put some white on there in a few places, and I'll be wiping back in a moment to get the effect that I want over there. Okay, down here. Right, let's see. But before I go down there, I do this. Sorry, it's a bit distracting, isn't it? I say down here, and then I say, oh, wait, up, hang on, I've got a little thing or two I need to do up there. And maybe this is a good thing in a painting to have this slightly grasshopper type mind, because it means that you don't get too bogged down in one area. I mean, it's almost like an affliction sometimes. But it's a good one. It's a good one to have because it keeps me jumping around the painting rather than concentrating too much on one area. Just getting a bit more white, and I'm using titanium white. I just want to answer a question which pops up. Which paints do I use? Which colours do I use? Well, it doesn't really matter too much about what paints you use. There's average priced paint, very cheap paint, and there's very expensive paint. I think the stuff that I use is sort of mid-range. There are some very expensive paint brands. I've got one or two tubes of, I think, Rembrandt colours. But for what I do, for tonalism, I don't actually want anything very bright, ready-made, because I can make the effect of brightness in a painting, frankly, using any brand, as long as you use the right colours next to the colours that you want to look bright. Hope that makes sense. It's all to do with contrasts and how you actually put colours in relation to one another. So don't worry about that too much. If you really want to know the paint I use, it's made by Bourgeois. I don't get paid for telling you this. I get paid for anything I recommend is all, it's free info. I don't get paid for any of that. And I just like the paint. Mainly, funny enough, because of their sap green, which is the darkest and richest sap green I've ever come across. That's what I like. I don't want a pasty sap green, because it's one of my first colours I'll use in a painting, and I like to get my darks really dark early on, because as they say, you can't show the light unless you have the dark. So I'm going to be a little bit, what am I going to be? I'm going to try and be Mr. Exciting. It's not so easy as you get older, but anyway. I'm going to just sort of add a few more bits there. What I'm after is the randomness you get in the sky. Don't do anything mechanical. If you start getting mechanical, your sky will actually look heavy, and it'll look as though the clouds have actually been painted, rather than actually looking like clouds. And it's just interesting borderline. Some people say to me that they try to paint landscapes, but they end up with something that looks cartoony. This is quite a common phenomenon, I never know which one it is. And it's because you're overdoing your painting, and you're trying to perfect everything. Trust me, it won't work. You've got to have looseness in your painting. And it took me a while to understand this when I was a student, because when I started in college, I was obviously quite young. Strangely, it only seemed like yesterday, but I was obviously very young. And I couldn't understand why the tutors kept drumming this into us. They said, loosen up, come on, relax, enjoy yourself. And I at the time, even though I wanted to be an artist, I actually didn't feel I was enjoying myself, because I suppose, when you're young, a student like that, you want to impress your tutors by producing something absolutely stunning, and it's a road you should not take unless you've decided that your life is going to be dedicated to painting detail. That's fine. If you want to produce a real work of art that has movement and a bit of soul to it, you have to relax. You've got to. Right, I'm going to do the old big brushy thing up here now. Just blur some of these a bit. You have to loosen up, and you have to disengage from your painting to the point where you don't care, because you can always do another one, you see. Particularly when you're a student, you don't think of it this way, but you've got the rest of your life to fiddle around. When you're a student, what you should be concentrating on is, to a great extent, is listening to your tutors. Don't listen to the ones that you think talk rubbish, because that'll confuse you. But try to do I like that? Try to find your own way, but detach. I'm going to just turn the camera so that what you paint has that dashed off look. In other words, if you do it properly and you can really relax and get a bit of a flourish and oh god, this gets confusing, telling you to clean it up now. Clean up your painting. Don't necessarily clean it up. Try to simplify the road to where you want to go. I'm wondering, whether a little bit of mist across that tree actually might be quite nice. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, I quite like that. Now that's interesting. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to stick with it. Now there's a bit of a line across there. This is because this canvas is so big. It's got a wooden bar across there. Just check. Yep. So when you approach this wooden bar with your brush, you need to sort of make sure that you become lighter with your touch, so that you can actually lose the impression of that bar coming through the painting. I'll have to work on it just a little bit here, because I've still got it and I want to lose that. Eventually it'll go away, but there's a line across the tree there, you can see that? So that's actually easier, because the tree has lots more tones in it, and I can lose it much better there. Okay, let's see how that looks. I quite like that. Maybe I'll bring that down. Okay, now let's see what happens if I decide that it's going to be even more misty across here. I'll keep sunlight areas. I quite like these now. That's sort of interesting. I might push them that way a little bit, but generally I quite like. Now there's a little, you see there's a residue of blue on the brush here, so I can put a mist over this tree quite well. Okay, so let's just, I'm going to mystify I'm going to mystify that tree there, just push some of that blue onto it, trying to desperately keep out of the way, because do you want to see my back? You don't. Let's just see what happens there. I'll go back to that bit in a minute. I'm going to just hide the top of that there, just a touch. So you see, as a painting progresses, it can change according to your whim. And my whim at the moment is definitely going towards this, I think, quite interesting foggy look. Let's see what happens when I drag across there, just very lightly. So in other words, it's I'm just applying fog, really, very, very lightly, and quite slowly, so that if I do see that I've reached the point where I want to stop, I can just stop. I'm going to rename this picture Misty Morning. Okay, nice effect like that. Okay. There's nothing wrong with a bit of fog. I quite like fog actually. As long as it doesn't stay around all day anyway. Just long enough to absorb it into my memory. Of course, I'm English, so I come from a country that knows fog quite well. Okay, yeah, foggy day. Now, here's one way of looking at this. Because I've done this, and I've simplified that tree, I don't actually have to worry too much about bringing out any detail, not that I would. What I would try to do is just bring out the odd little light area, just to give, I dread to say it, because I always do, and that is the illusion of detail. I don't want too much detail. I just strengthen that light bit there, just for a little bit of interest. And the only other bit I think I would do is just there. Just to crisp that bit up a little bit, because the light's catching it. Okay, now I'm going to get down to the ground in a minute, and at the moment the ground has got water, and I know most people seem to like a bit of water. It's water that I've already put on there, but I'm going to enhance it a little bit. I'm just going to get a little bit more mist. Now usually I would use this brush just for smearing clouds. I don't often paint misty pictures, strangely enough. And they're actually very easy to do. If you want to paint a misty picture, the thing to do is to think of it the other way round. Paint your picture as I did this painting, in other words, reasonably crisp. Apply your fog afterwards. Don't try to paint fog as you go. That's actually going to be quite difficult. So just experiment a little bit. So there we are. We've got hardly any colour coming off here, but I just want to put it along these trees here. So let's see how that looks. Just the odd streak, because that will look like fog. Just coming off the ground slightly. Time for a camera adjustment, I think. You can see there that there is a little bit of water. Now the fog, because it's not a, it's not a what we would call a pea soup fog or pea souper. It's a light early morning mist, which means that a lot of this stuff in the foreground here would not be affected by fog. It would be reasonably crisp, and then the fog appears as you recede. as the picture recedes away from you. Sorry about that. I've got to remember I'm wearing one of these clip-on microphones and it's actually quite sensitive. So if that just blew your eardrums out, I really apologise. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit more and try and show you a bit more of the foreground. Let's see how smoothly we can move that. Okay, that's pretty well all of it. Okay, so I put a streak or two across there. At the moment they're a little bit crisp, and I don't want crisp. I'm going to just smudge the top and bottom a little bit of that line, just so it's not too in your face. Lose some of those darks. That's reasonably foggy. I think I need to fog it a bit more, and I think I'll do that with just a little bit of paper rotation. You can hear the paper actually catching on the paint. There's some light areas here, and they're like little peaks, so you can hear the paper catching on them. Okay, so there's a reasonable fog. I might have to go over there and do a bit more fogging, although that could be the area where the fog is starting to clear. Entirely up to you. I think I'll just put a little bit in. See, it's hardly anything. It looks like a lot of paint on there, but it's hardly anything. It's basically just a residue. And I'm going to just grey up that area over there a little bit. In fact, this tree at the end, I think it needs a little bit of fog in front of it, just like that, so that it's more foggy. Right, so down here, soften it a bit. There. Okay, what I'm going to do now, the water looks quite bright. This colour here is actually a reflection. It's got a tiny bit of pink in it, so it's okay for a reflection. A reflection in water doesn't necessarily have to be as strong as the sky. So I could add a little bit more red just under that, on that bit. It isn't entirely necessary. In fact, if you look at the angles, you see we're here, we're looking down at the water, and you have to work out your angles. What would actually reflect in that bit of water? It may not be any of the red. It may actually, according to the angle, bounce up, and you may just get a bit of blue in the water because it actually doesn't pick up that red because the angle misses it. It goes up to there. This is something that you'll have to practice to get used to. It's not that easy to explain. In fact, now that I've gone towards a bit of mist, I'm just going to add a little bit of this fog just over that reddish colour, and down the bottom here I'm going to wipe away. It's very red, and see if there's any white under that. Don't know that there is. Yeah, it's slightly paler. If I take it off just a bit, so it's, yeah, that could be a little bit of low sun gradually coming up. Up there on the sky, oh, you can't see, up there on the sky, I'm going to do a bit of work in a minute, but for now, a little bit of water. So I'm going to use a palette knife. The only thing I'm going to do, even though the water looks quite bright, I'm going to make it even brighter. I should really have a chair so that I'm low enough down for this. This is actually quite low from me. If I put my hands at my side and just lift the knife, that's how low down that is in comparison to where I am. But it's such a big painting. If I rise it up anymore, it'll wobble even more. So I'm going to leave it. So what I'm thinking, I'm actually going to add a bit of white to the sky there. Again, don't worry about precision. All I'm doing is just a hint in there and there of some light coming up low to the horizon. I'm not going to be concerned about over there at all, so it's just there. It looks a bit too bright at the moment, which is just the way it is. That's how you paint pictures that show light. You have to be quite intense with your light to start with. So I'm going to sort of blur it a bit, and I'm going to blur this one a bit. In fact, I'm just going to put a little bit there too. So maybe that's all that you can see. I've got to check that the level here and the level there match in some form. They have to go across, like so. Right. Now that I've done that, I'm going to use the big brush again after a quick wipe. And all I'm going to do with this is just drag it up a few times to push the light to the sky. It'll blur downwards as well, but that's okay. Fix that in a minute. So another swipe there. Okay, and then I'll do the same here. And again there. Good. So now that I've got my piece of paper, I'm going to bring some of these bushes back in front of the light. Like so. So that little bit there, let's zoom in, see if I can. I'm having one of those clumsy days today. I've already dropped oil on the floor. Almost fallen downstairs once. But at least I'm still with us. Okay. So I really like this effect. I think even if I keep this light channel through here, it's very, very subtle, I will bring the tree trunks back. So I'm using a piece of paper, like so, made it trunk width, almost, or thereabouts. I'm just going to wipe the white off the trunk, like so. That brings it forward. You see how that just making that extra dark. Well, I haven't added dark to it. I mean, it was already dark. It's just, I'm just revealing it again. Do that with the bottom part of the tree, in fact, all the way down. And I'm going to do it to the next one, like so. It's a little bit of perspective back into the picture there. Another one there, and the one on the end. Not sure that I did that much, but there you go. A little bit of dark something at the bottom. I think you'll agree that this is actually not a bad way to paint fog. Just going to bring that back a little bit through there, that little lump of tree there, just to sort of strengthen it a bit, and that immediately gives you distance between here and what's going on through there. And we've got the glow in the sky, very simply. It's not complicated at all. I'm going to just take some of the white off a couple of bits there. Some of the things that you see me doing here, you may not, I don't know how well it translates into the camera, but cameras can only do so much. This is supposed to be high definition, super-uni, all bells and whistles camera, but I guess there's a limit to what they can pick up. Anyway, so there's a nice bit of glow on the horizon there. We've got light coming from all directions here. Regarding light source, you see at the top I've got at the moment, I'll show you again in a second, you've got some light hitting some clouds way up the top, and you've also got light here, but you do get that in nature. You get like a shelf of cloud above you, and then the light is at the edge of the shelf in the distance, but you can also get light up the top, up there. So I don't actually worry about light sources. light bounces around all over the place. So it's sort of a strange thing, light. Fascinating, of course. But now, the question is, do I change this green? Don't know yet. Let's move the camera again. I'll think on that in a minute. But what I'm going to do now, that I've got that little bit of light in the sky there, I'm going to intensify a bit of light here. And to do that, same way I did the clouds, bit of white on a palette knife, and it's just a question of finding the light, dropping down and intensifying, and it's very easy and quick to do. Just a touch. And I've got a little bit over here as well. I might just do a little bit in there. So again there, straight down. It can't, if you see, if I'm doing this, it can't be over there. It just won't work. It's got to be immediately, directly below that light source. Because there's a lot of paint already on the canvas, I can just sort of push over it like that, and that will break up the paint quite nicely, so it looks like it's twinkling through the reeds or whatever they are. And a bit more paint over here now, same thing, a little bit more intensity just below that, so let's just do a few marks there. Okay, it's looking reasonably wet. So, next thing, bit of paper. Just going to smear it a little bit. And whenever I do this, by the way, I'm just sort of literally moving back and forth. What I'm doing all the time, I'm looking at what I'm wiping and what marks I'm making, and trying to figure out when I should stop. It's just a question of knowing when to hold back. And I think that could be about when to hold back. Okay, I'm going to do a few little twinklies over there underneath this bank. I'm not sure what to do about the green yet. I might leave that for another video, possibly, see how it goes. But I just at the moment want to do a little catch light. What we call a catch light, from my magazine days when we were putting or retouching pictures to go in magazines. We would always refer to catch lights because it's somewhere that catches the light. Like a few little random sparkles. If you do something like this, don't be tempted to keep going, because you'll overdo it. There's a great saying, and I'm sure everyone's heard it, and that is less is more. When I first heard someone say that, I thought, well, that's a typical stupid stupid way of describing it, but actually when I think about it, less can give you more of an effect, so it's not that stupid. I'm going to put a few through there because it all helps, you see. It draws you in, it brings you across and then through there, and then maybe I'll have a bit of light on the ground there. I'm not sure yet. Think about it. I think the odd twinkle just through here. If you want to get the hang of doing things like this, I'm going to recommend an artist that I often mention. That's William Turner, and well, two artists, Turner and Constable, John Constable. They did this sort of thing, where they would, you know, because they both painted water exceptionally well, and they would just add the odd twinkle in a picture. I'm going to add another twinkle in a minute, but it's not water. I'm going to use white, but I'm going to use it on a tree. So there's a bunch of, oh, sorry, I keep doing this. I forget that I'm actually videoing. I'm going to move the camera for you. we've got this, I said bunch, but I don't know whether you'd describe that as a bunch of trees. It's a clump of trees. And now that I see it again, after going and working elsewhere, and I look back, I see a few things I want to change. I want to do something with this area here. I'm not quite happy with that. In fact, before I do what I was going to do, I'm going to just take some of that away. Just a little bit there, because it was too sudden. It was like blue, not blue, you know? So just add the odd bit of definition up through there. I think that might do it for now. I have these tree trunks. I've got this one here, which is the sort of dominant tree trunk. I'm sure that there's a bit of it under there. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be. Certainly not always right. Okay, there's enough of the tree trunk to tell you that there's a tree there. So the other tree trunks are actually falling back into the fog a little bit too much. I'm just going to bring that back. Just a quick wipe over each one, like so. Doesn't do much to them, but it, you know, it's every little thing helps. Just take the top edge of that line of mist away. There. So, with the palette knife, I'm going to make that tree there into a tree that has a little bit of white on its trunk, so maybe it's a birch. I mean, that's the only one I can think of, actually. So let's see what happens when we birch the tree up a bit. Let's see. Just a touch. Going back to Turner and Constable. Yeah, they were masters at suggesting something in a painting in the most minimum way. Just enough. You don't have to shout at people to get their attention. Sometimes whispering does it. And it's something I like to do. I make a few birches actually. I've suddenly got a bit of a thirst for birch. So let's have some birchinization of these trees. Let's have another little one there. I mean, you don't have to do the whole tree trunk, you see, you just do enough. And the brain will say, tree trunks with a lot of white on them, bet they're birch. And they usually are. Okay, so am I happy with my birchness in those trees? I think I could birch up a bit more here. I think I'm going to just strengthen that one. See, these are just literally dots of paint that are catching on the painting that's already done. So that gives me a randomness about the marks that I'm making. Now you can paint randomness, but if this gives you a little bit of a helping hand, then whoopee-doo is all I can say. Okay, so let's I'm desperately thinking to myself as I do this, don't go too far. Stop showing off, Davis. Let's have a nice willowy something up there. I think one of them needs probably a branch going off sideways. Yeah, I think that might do it in there. Hint of one in the distance. Just the tiniest. You see, this is not detail. This is just interest. I'm trying to paint interest into the picture, so that people will look at it and go, ooh, how on earth did he do that? Okay, so I'm reasonably happy with the water, but the next thing is to just finish off the clouds at the top, and then I think that'll be the end of this video. But we're not there yet, so don't go, if you're still here in the first place, of course. Right, so the top, let's go up there. And let's see if we can actually turn the camera and zoom back a bit. Okay, and have a little movement that way, I think. There we go. So, I have to say, this new easel that I have has some amazing clamping capabilities. It's not a flimsy easel. No, I meant tripod. It's a really solid tripod. It does exactly what you want it to do. Now you may think, well, actually that looks quite interesting up there. Well, it is, I suppose, but it's not quite what I want. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this broken cloud. I was going to darken it all the way up, but I'm not now. I'm going to bring some of these slightly fragmented clouds down over some of these, just a little bit, so that there's a bit of a blend between the two without it being too much of a sudden line. So I think something like that. And then I'll be big brushing it in a second. There's a little bit over this side too. This looks a little dramaless here, so let's just have a little bit more contrast there, I think. This is getting grubby now, and if you're applying white onto a painting, you need to keep your palette knife reasonably clean, otherwise it will just blend in. So I'm going to have a little bit of something there, and I'll check the palette knife, and it's gone blue, so a bit more clean white, just a little touch down there. I think that might almost be it, apart from a quick swipe with the big brush in a moment, which as you may remember, has got fog on it at the moment, so I'll defog the brush so that I don't mush up what I'm trying to do with the clouds. So I think just a bit there too. There. I think that's probably it. Okay, now, big brush. As usual, quick wipe, no turpentine, and the minimum amount of swipes here, so one or two there, that way and that way, this way and that way. Okay, so that's probably all right. And then over here, just a touch or two, like so. And I think that may be almost it. Apart from a few things I want to say, I'd like to say first of all thank you to the people who are my patrons on my Patreon page. Your help is extremely welcome, and of course if you're a Patreon and you are donating more than $10 a month, you get free access to my online Zoom class. If you're not a Patreon, it costs, I don't know, about 25 euros, I think, something like that, 25 something. If you're a Patreon, you just get in, you don't pay anything, because you've already paid 10, so you're getting it at half price. And so far I've had, I think, 3 or 4 of these classes. I just had one a few days ago, and I've got one on where have I got it? I've got one on April the 10th, I've got one on April the 24th, and I think April 10th is definitely full. April 24th's got 2 or 3 spaces left at the time I'm making this video, and I will be doing 2 more classes in May, and the details will be on my Facebook page. I've just seen something I want to do here. And so yeah, if you want to get in on one of these Zoom classes, they're good fun. You get to see me paint something in an hour, or quicker if I can do it. And then you get 30 minutes of having a chat. Ask me any questions you like, and I'll do my best to answer them. And that's that. I hope to do actual one-to-one or even group classes when things go back to normal, if they ever do, but I'm not holding my breath on that. But if things do go back to normal, I'll let you know. And I think that's all I need to say, really. thanks for being here. I'll give you an overall view before I go. I'm not just going to disappear. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you've enjoyed it. So let's see what we can see if I zoom the camera back and then move it. Okay. So that's pretty well the entire painting with added water twinkles. Do I need to add more twinkles? I think I might. Do you know, if you're still here, thank you, I might add more twinkles just so that you can see. And by the way, I know my videos aren't awfully professional, but I'm not a professional video maker. And in my career, I've done a lot of storyboards for videos, for commercials and excuse me, TV commercials and some cinema commercials back in the 70s, a long time ago. But I never imagined that I would actually be making my own movies of me painting something. Came as a bit of a surprise. So anyway, what I'm just going to do something down here, because I just like these little twinkly bits that appear in the water there. Let's add a little bit of life. As I said, don't overdo them. In fact, I'm going to turn the palette knife around and try working the other way. Normally I work, if I'm using my right hand, sometimes I use my left hand. If I'm using my right hand, I tend to use the palette knife like this with the paint here on this side. But if I'm working away, I turn it around so that the paint is at the top. There, I hope you can see that. So that I can work that way without getting in the way of the video. So I think just the odd touch there. Maybe underneath there would be a hint. I wonder, is that too far away to pick up that reflection? I don't think it would particularly show, so I won't bother with that. That's it. So yeah, thanks for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I'll see you on the next video. So take care. See you soon. Bye for now.